Hi everybody. Hey, and welcome. Today, I am going to continue our theme about about working in sprints. So, if you didn't grab the 2023 sprint calendar, now is the time to do it. So, you can grab that at thescrumshop.com/workbooks. It's the very top one, and then you can take a look around and see if there's any other workbooks that you would like to work on. But for now, we're focusing on working in sprints. And that is one of the best ways that you can compartmentalize your work so that you don't get overwhelmed. But one of the biggest problems that I see with myself and my clients is that we tend to overload our sprints, right? And that we don't want to do that. We don't want to be overloading our sprints because it's so nice to get to the end of your sprint and actually have accomplished stuff and have things checked off the list, right? And when we do that, when we don't overload our sprints and we can close out the sprint for the weekend or whatever, the last day of the sprint, you can close it out. You can rest your mind and relax instead of having all these tasks and things hanging over you. So I wanted to talk today about some of the things that you can do to prevent yourself from overloading your sprints. So number one, the first one is to do your time blocks first. Now, I've already given you a resource to do time blocks. You can grab that at thescrumshop.com/workbooks, and down below it's called Take Charge of Your Time, or you can get it at thescrumshop.com/time. But anyway, if you do your time blocks first, it's going to be a lot easier for you to plan your sprint because if you do your plan before you even know how much time you have available to work on your business, then you're really setting yourself up for failure. So instead, look at the time blocks when you actually have, because even if you are working 40 hours a week or full time and your whole day is spent working on your business, you may have appointments, right? You have meetings with clients, you have meetings maybe with your coach or whatever. You might have meetings with potential clients. You have all kinds of things going on, not just the work that you're having to do in your sprint, right? And so by doing your time blocks, you can actually figure out how much time you have, the quality of that time, and then as you're planning your sprint, you can have that in at the forefront of your mind. So when you plan out the things that you're going to do, you're mindful of the fact that maybe you only have 3 or 4 hours of full focus time this week, or maybe you only have 2 hours, or maybe you have a lot. Maybe you have 10 hours and you're like, yes, I can really make some progress on this project I'm working on, right? And so that's the first one. Number one is the time blocks. Do your time blocks before you plan your sprint. Number two, start categorizing your work. Categorize it in terms of daily tasks, weekly tasks, monthly tasks, and then projects. Now, when you separate your projects like that, it's so much easier for you to look at your to-do list more objectively, right? Or I guess it's to really keep your to-do list a little bit smaller. So instead of having 50 things on your list, you might have 5 things, right? You have your daily tasks. Maybe you have something that you do every week. Maybe you have some monthly tasks that you do that you're working on as well. And maybe you're working on a little bit, like, right, you have a monthly task, like maybe you do like I do and you create a monthly freebie. Well, I work on that slowly over the month. I don't just like cram all at once and do it. I start, framing it out, getting some ideas down, that sort of thing. So I don't have to spend huge blocks of time doing that thing that's a monthly task. Now, that's not to say that I haven't put it off and then done it at the last minute, and that's perfectly okay too. Sometimes getting that full focus time when you sort of put your whole month to rest and then be able to just focus on that one thing helps as well. But anyway, think about this. If you start categorizing your work, you are going to be able to only have maybe 4 or 5 things on your list. And then when you slate out time to work on that particular project or that particular set of daily tasks, now you are in that thing and you can start prioritizing within that that particular project of what you're going to do first, what you're going to do next, and even some of the things that you might have to cut out of this round of your iteration through your project, right? Remember with the iPhone 1, right? We're not necessarily building the iPhone 15 today. If it's your first year in business, you're not building that iPhone 15. You're building the iPhone 1, or maybe you're on 2 now, or 3 or 5. I don't know where you're at, but you see what I'm saying? It's like sometimes we have that expectation to have everything absolutely perfect the first year out of the gate, and that can actually prevent you from even getting out of the gate, right? So we don't want to do that. So anyway, so time blocks is number one. Number two is categorizing your work by daily, weekly, monthly tasks, and then projects. And then each project individually, right? And then the next thing you want to do is within those projects, you want to do a work breakdown. So you actually start breaking down the work into whatever tasks you have. That way, it's not so daunting. You've got a list of tasks that you need to do, like, okay, I need to write the copy for my sales page. I need to create, frame out the design of my sales page. I need to actually create the sales page. I need to find images for that sales page. And the more you break things down, the easier it is for you to estimate how long things are going to take. And when you're able to estimate, then it's easier for you to fit that into your little time block slots that you have when you can work on things. So it'll be easier when you look at your day. If you're doing a daily scrum, right? You look at your day and you're like, okay, well, here's my time blocks for the day. I already had them planned. And so these are the things that I know I can get done today, right? So estimating is going to help a lot to prevent you from overloading your sprints, because you can ensure that you don't have more than 40 hours of work slated out for yourself, right? And if you do have more than you have time for, then you want to start looking at creating milestones, right? Where's a good stopping point that you can stop so that you can continue the project within the next sprint? But find that little milestone that can help you sort of have a victory at the end of the sprint, and to be able to kind of put it away, so you can relax and enjoy your weekend and rest and recharge and all the things that you need to do. So that's the third thing, is breaking down that work into estimates. And that's really the thing about estimating, right? Is if you can't estimate, keep breaking it down into smaller and smaller tasks until it's something familiar that you're used to doing and you know how long it will take. Okay. All right. And so then the next thing is to prioritize. Now that you have estimates, you know how long things are going to take, you can start prioritizing. You might actually have some sort of feature or something that you're trying to add into your sprint that maybe it's just going to take way too long. After you've done the estimates, you're like, that's going to delay my whole entire project by X amount of time, and I don't want to delay my project. So just like the iPhone, right, where they cut out that forward-facing camera out of their first iPhone, you can do the same thing. You can have those won't haves, the won't have at this time feature that it's just at this time. That doesn't mean you won't be able to have it later on. You won't be able to you can add it later on. But right now in this time, in order for you to reach the deadline that you already want to make, it's really your goal, right? It's not really a deadline necessarily. Nobody's given you the assignment. It's your goal, right? It's the date that you want to get that thing accomplished. So prioritizing, finding those things that maybe you could put off till later and have it in the next iteration is perfectly okay. It's perfectly okay to do that. And then go ahead and release your product or service or whatever it is, that thing that you're creating. Go ahead and release it, even if it isn't perfect. It's okay not to be perfect. Okay, and then the very last one is planning for obstacles. So what do I mean by that? What I mean is your week is going to get filled up, right? So when you think about when you're planning all the work that you have, maybe only plan out 75% of your time blocks, right? Because the other 25 is going to get filled with obstacles, with things that you didn't expect, or things you didn't even plan for that maybe you take for granted that you do. You normally do it and you just forget to put it on your list. And maybe you have some of those things where you know you have to slate out a few hours a week to do those things. You don't necessarily have to have them on your to-do list because you do them every week. It's routine and you don't forget. It's not something you forget. So make sure that you're slating out time for those things, and then make sure you're planning for obstacles. You're giving yourself some buffer time. So what I like to do is sort of round things up to the nearest hour and look at things that way. So when I'm estimating, I look at is it going to take more than 1 hour or less than 1 hour? Once I get to that number of hours, because if it's going to take more than 1 hour, then you got to ask yourself, is it going to take more than 2 hours, more than 3, more than 4, more than 5? And if it is going to take more than 4, then you really want to probably break that down into milestones, because I don't know anybody who has a 4-hour time span, I mean attention span, and you probably don't either. So it's probably best to break things down into little milestones so that you can have a moment of celebration. You can actually move that thing to done, right? You can move that thing to the done column, which is going to help to encourage you and to help you give you those little victories that keep you going toward that goal. The other thing that it does is it helps you to go back to your big picture and understand exactly what piece of the puzzle you're working on, right? Your whole business is like a puzzle, and you're putting all the different pieces in place for it to work as one coherent piece, right? One coherent thing that's doing its job. And that's really what you're doing, is you're setting up parts of your business so that it does the job for you, so you don't have to do it, right? We don't want to do everything manually, right? That's why we have accounting software, and we don't have to use, a ledger anymore. We don't have to do those things anymore. We have things that help us be more efficient. And that's what you're trying to do with your business, is set it up and make it so it's as efficient as possible. And getting this work management thing is going to go miles and miles and miles for you. I mean, you'll have these skills for the lifetime of your business. So really focus on that and start thinking about working in sprints. Take advantage of the sale that we're having this month on the Take Charge of Your Biz bundle. You'll get that if you'll have access to that sales price. When you opt in for the 2023 sprint calendar, you'll have that offer, and you can get that and start actually putting your productivity system in place with the ability to manage projects as well, and then being able to plan your sprints and do all the things that you need to do to build that iPhone 15 or whatever it is, right? Wouldn't that be wonderful? Like, think about your business, where it's going to be in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years when you have your iPhone 15 out there, right? I mean, Apple didn't think that they'd never be around in 5 years. They didn't think, oh, that they didn't have that doubt that we all have, right? That it's easy to get into, is that doubt. We don't need that anymore, because we're going to learn exactly how to manage our work and manage our releases of our work, so that we can, one, accept imperfection. And it isn't that it even is imperfect, right? It's just maybe not your nirvana. It's not that pie in the sky, what you dreamed it was going to be maybe today, because you have to build it and it takes time to build it. So build it piece by piece, feature by feature, and make sure you're prioritizing so that you get the most important pieces in first, and then you can iterate through and keep improving on everything, so that you eventually have that nirvana. Now, remember, nirvana is probably never going to happen. There's never going to be anything that's absolutely perfect, and that's okay. That's the whole point of being human, right? Is that we are not perfect. And so embrace the imperfection, because that is one of the things that makes you appealing to your perfect people, is that you aren't perfect. You aren't, you know, that plastic Barbie doll. You're a real person. You're a real person. And so this is one of the things, one of the steps that you can do to start managing that work so that you can build that wonderful dream business that gives you the freedom that you want and gives you the life that you want. All right, everybody, I hope that that helps, and be sure to grab those downloads. I will put them in the comments in the feed, and then you can grab those things and get going. Okay. All right, then. Thank you, and bye. We'll see you in the comments.